Hello, everybody. We're back, I think. We got this sorted out. I dropped the FPS on the stream. We do not need 60 frames per second with me sitting here. And we lowered the quality of the recording, so that should put a little less strain on my CPU. I actually don't even really need a recording, but I don't actually know how to make OBS not record it. I can't find that setting anywhere. So anyway, Max is right. We are so back. Much better. That's what I want to hear. Looks good. Okay, great. So we're going to do this thing. No more wasting time. If you didn't catch the first 4 minutes of the failed stream, lucky you. We're going to take a look at a couple of teams that were submitted. One of them is a contender. One of them is a rebuilder. We're going to see what type of moves they might want to make at the trade deadline. Just kind of talk about, other teams in their league who might be incentivized to trade. I don't really have inside information on any of these managers, so it's not going to be necessarily a psychological evaluation, but just sort of matching up team needs, talking that out. The first one comes in from Henry JSB. So he's got the Ninja Turtle profile picture over on Discord, and we're going to look at his team. He said he's a contending team. Like he's likely to make the playoffs at this point, but his points for are a little bit lower than other contending teams. So kind of benefited from some luck so far. And he wants to know, should he flip picks for star players or just ride it out and see what happens in the playoffs? We're going to go take a look at his team and find out. I don't know yet what his situation is. Yellow, what's up? Welcome in to the stream. Anyway, you guys are welcome to chime in with questions as usual. Feel free to interrupt. I can do two things at once, in theory. But we're going to jump over here to this view, and I have his team pulled up here, or his league, I should say, pulled up here. Here's his team. Let's just sort this by record. So we're over on Dynasty Daddy. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's currently 5th in the standings. He's tied for 3rd in terms of record. And he's working with, we might as well get the league context here. 12 teams, 10 starters, super flex, half PPR. Everything else looks pretty normal. No tight end premium that I can see. There is a receiving. Is that receiving first down? 0.75. So it's half PPR with a first down bonus. That's probably not going to matter. Yeah. Standard 12 team super flex. Star 10. He's got Jaden Daniels. He's got CJ Stroud. He has no quarterback 3. That's not great when both of these guys have a bye in week 14. He's got Kyron, Bucky Irving, Tank Bigsby, Rashad White, Jalen Warren. So not the strongest running back room. He's got Jamison Williams, Khalil Shakir, Calvin Ridley, Jacoby Myers, Rashad Bateman. And then he has Brock Bowers. Yeah, I can see what you mean about this being a pretty thin contender. And when we look at the overall rank, in terms of overall value, at least according to the Dynasty Daddy values, I'm not entirely sure how those are derived. I'm not sure if it's similar to the Fantasy Calc methodology or if it's based on ADP or if it's based on something else. But this has you as the 5th most valuable team. Specifically, they have you 4th in draft capital, 3rd in tight end, 10th in wide receiver, 6th in running back, 3rd in quarterback. So, not a loaded team by any means. It's nice to have the extra first in 2025, but you don't have like a ton to work with here. So the way I see this is kind of like you're free rolling a playoff berth that you probably shouldn't have had in the first place. And I wouldn't be going like crazy aggressive here to necessarily make the most of it. But I think if you're going to be in the dance, you might as well be able to field a reasonable team. So, for example, you're not going to have a quarterback in week 14. I'm not going to go out and move heaven and earth to go and get a third quarterback here. I would kick the tires on. We'll go take a look and see if we can maybe fix that problem. Let's go see who has Jameis Winston, rebuilding team that is in the rebuilding tier. Certainly looks to be rebuilding. Rashee Rice, Chris Olave, Xavier Worthy at wide receiver. Travis Etienne's their only running back. Okay, so here, this is like a logical move, right? This team should have no interest in rostering Jameis Winston. So like if this is a rational manager, which again, as I said in the video this week, is like not a given at all. I have a team in one of my leagues that is the 11 seed. He's not competing. I offered him a 3rd round pick for Jameis Winston, and he's like, I just think he should be worth more. And I'm like, okay, has anybody offered you more? Are you getting more? No. Okay, do you think he's a starter next year? I don't know, probably not. Okay, so why wouldn't you trade him to me for a 3rd? I don't know, it just doesn't seem like enough. That's the conversation, and that's the end of it. So, that might be the case, but it seems like you should be able to go to this person and say, hey, you have a quarterback who has 7 games left of usefulness and is probably not going to be a starter anywhere because the league has told us he's not a starter and he throws interceptions like it's his job. And you should be able to get that guy for a 3rd, and that would be a reasonable trade to make to just kind of ensure your playoff run a little bit, put yourself in a better spot. Outside of quarterback, there are other things that you can do, like Jaylen Warren, Tank Bigsby, Bucky Irving. These running backs have value here, according to the Dynasty Daddy values, but they're not necessarily the best running backs you would want to have on a contending team. But you might be able to just make kind of a lateral pivot to other running backs that can help you more now that aren't going to sabotage you in the long-term value. So rather than going out and trading like a 2nd for James Conner, where, yeah, you're upgrading points now, but you're losing on value because he's going to turn 30 years old, and you'd rather have that 2nd after the year's over. What you could do is you could go to these teams that are down here and let's just see, okay, who do these guys have? Well, this team has no running backs. Okay, this guy's 3-7. He's sitting here with Alvin Kamara. That's probably the only running back here that you really want for your playoff run. But like this guy, what does this guy want Alvin Kamara for, right? What is the point of this manager having Alvin Kamara? They have sold off just about everything else. So, maybe you can go to this person and you can say, hey, I will give you Bucky Irving, and maybe we can do it like a 2-player, like Bucky Irving and Jameson Williams for Alvin Kamara. And I don't know, man, they don't have any real players. So that's hard. Maybe not that type of trade. Something where you could give up Bucky in a little bit. You could get Kamara. You're not handicapping yourself long term with that type of a trade. Like, yeah, it's possible that Bucky Irving emerges, has more value than Kamara by this offseason. I suspect they'd be similarly valued until next year, at which point Kamara will start to outlive his usefulness and people will move on to the next younger player. But that's just one example. It doesn't have to be him. Could be this next team. Oh, like this is perfect, right? Tyrone Tracy, rookie running back, a little bit older for a rookie running back. But like if you could swap You know, you could send Tank Bigsby and Jalen Warren and get Tyrone Tracy and, you know, a third, Tyrone Tracy and 2/3, something like that, where you're getting a running back you can plug in who's going to project for more points now, but isn't necessarily losing value. The other person gets 2 running backs. Bigsby is specifically a player that I just don't really believe in. I don't really think he's like a real asset, because he doesn't. I think it would be very difficult to foresee him actually commanding enough work in a backfield that isn't reliant on injury to be like really fantasy relevant. So this is kind of how I handle things. You know, when I'm looking at a team, I'm going to these other teams and I'm saying, what would be logical for them? And how can I sell this to them in a way where it's not just me trying to get one over on them, but it's like there is a path to this being viable. Yes, Bryce over Bigsby. You win that one. I would still say there were other more appealing options when Bigsby was at his peak that you could have cashed out for. But yes, I would rather have Bryce Young than Tank Bigsby. I would still try to sell Bryce Young, but I would rather have him. Also, what is this in reference to? I put some Caleb slander in the Discord. Here's the other side of the coin. What is the other side of the coin? Please fill me in. Okay, so let's just keep talking about a couple more options here. I like Tracy as a potential pivot where you can potentially gain points now without giving up too much. Kamara is an option on this maybe next year team. Breece Hall, probably a bit too expensive to really consolidate around. ETN's not going to do you much good. So there's not a ton of running back options right now. If some of these other teams start to fall out of the race, you might be able to go and pick up another one. For now, you can probably keep starting Kyron, and I guess Bucky and Rachaad White are both on bye, so you're going to have to start like Jalen Warren this week or something, because Bigsby's out. So you're going to have to start Warren. And then as far as wide receiver, I think Shakir, Ridley, and Myers are a fine group of 3. Even Bateman, I think, to ride into the playoffs with. I feel like Jameson Williams of this group of wide receivers is the one that sticks out as being the most inefficiently priced for what he's probably going to give you. And I mean, I've had like bias against Jameson Williams because I just don't. It's hard for me to buy into him being that good with what he's done to this point in his career. He's had some good games this year, but he's a guy I really struggle to trust. And so look at his value of 3,726. You know, if we can look around, there was a team down here that had a bunch of wide receivers. Like this guy right here, you know, he's got T. Higgins. He has Tank Dell, who's not valued that far ahead of Jameson. You know, if you could trade Jameson in a second to get like T. Higgins in a third, that's something I'd be interested in. No, yeah, I did see this. Hold on, I think my camera stopped. There we go. My phone's on low power. Hopefully it doesn't die. And I apologize for all the dumb stuff here right now. Yeah, I saw the chart. I just meant what the others. I wasn't sure what you were referring to as the other side of the coin. Anyway, would you do Tracy plus 106 plus 106, 7, or 8 for Saquon on a team that's a playoff lock? So is the first someone else's first, or is it your first? Because if you're a playoff lock, it's not going to be 106. But I guess I'll assume it's another person's pick. Man, that is tough. Let me pull up the rankings. I'm going to say probably... honestly, it's like about even. It's about even. I think it's it's a justifiable move. I would at least like try to see if you could make the same deal for Ken Walker or Devon Achane. first. I just think I'd rather have those guys from an age perspective, where I don't like, even if Barkley's outscoring those players, it's probably not to a degree that it's going to impact a playoff matchup. And I think I would just rather shoot for the higher value ceiling, more value insulation on those guys. But the trade, I mean, the rankings would have this as a pretty even deal, with Tracy being an early second, with Barkley being ranked in about 1.25 base firsts, a little over that. The 106, 107, that's a little bit less than a base one. The early second, add on to that, that brings you probably about 1.25 base first. So I think that's an even deal for both sides. As far as other trade options here with this team, I think it's important going in to understand that this team probably isn't going to win the championship. And so operating with that mindset and realizing, like, we can't go out and buy ourselves a championship. What we're just trying to do is if this team has a 1% chance of making it through the playoff gauntlet as it currently sits, maybe we can get that to a 5% chance. Maybe we can get that to a 6 or 7% chance. If you think of it that way, it's like, yeah, I'm willing to give up a little bit of value to literally increase my odds by 6x or 7x, but it's still going to be a fairly low probability. So we still want to be prioritizing future seasons over this season. And that's why I wouldn't recommend any massive swings. But I think that the two places you can clearly improve, you can get a cheap QB3 as insurance and to get you through that week 14. You can try to upgrade your RB2 by making some lateral moves at running back, trying to move these Bucky, Tank, Rashad, Jalen Warren, maybe move 2 for 1, or maybe move one of those guys in a lateral move for somebody like a Tyrone Tracy, who's scoring similarly right now, but probably won't lose a lot of value. And then at wide receiver, I think Jameson Williams would be the number one guy that I would dangle in a trade and potentially try to send him with a second, or send him with a couple of thirds, and try to upgrade to a wide receiver that, one that I believe in more. Maybe go over to the rankings and see how that would line up. Somebody like a T. Higgins seems like a good target. So that's how I'd look at it. And you can just sort of enjoy how it goes. But if we look at some of these other teams, like, there are no unbeatable teams, but like this team with Lamar, Gibbs, Barkley, Aaron Jones, Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, like, that team is going to be very hard to beat with your team if you were to come across that team. This guy, let's see, Purdy and Mayfield, that's pretty much a wash with your duo. Maybe you have a slight edge. Henry, Mixon, Chase Brown, like, that's three guys that could legitimately average 20 points per game through the playoffs. Jefferson and Kupp are pretty formidable. You obviously have a great tight end as well. So it's not impossible, but without that bye week, it is going to be difficult. So that's where I'd be sitting with that team. Let's go look at the other one now. The other one is, he said it was, and he waddled away. Here we go. Great reference. Jalen Waddle hasn't been the most fun to roster, but that is still a good song. The Duck song. If you guys don't know the Duck song, go look it up. So he is currently sitting at 3rd overall in value, but this is a rebuild. 4-16 record. You can see he's at the bottom. He's doing his thing. Gonna go get that 101 pick, I would hope. He's sitting on Love and Kyler and Nick, so pretty stacked quarterback room. Tyjae Spears and nothing else at running back. So basically emptied out the running back room. And then Nate has Brian Thomas, Jalen Waddle, A.D. Mitchell, Wicks, Douglas, Bateman, and then McBride at tight end. So he's got kind of his star quarterbacks. He's got his star tight end. He's got his 1-star wide receiver, and hopefully, maybe, possibly a star one day again in Jalen Waddle. And he has over here 3 firsts. He's got 3 firsts, a second, a couple thirds. He has some extra picks in future year, a couple extra picks in future years, not any extra firsts. So good team, good rebuild team here. And the question is, how can you pry some value away from contenders? I mean, honestly, hold on one second. Let me answer this question. Yeah, I'm fine with trading Worthy in a second for Kamara, but I'm like completely out on Xavier Worthy. Like, I'm like, I'm begging to use him in trades to send away for things like this. So that works for me. Nate, I mean, I hate to break it to you here. There's not a ton on this roster that you can really tempt a contender with. There's certainly nothing in the wide receiver room other than maybe Rashad Bateman if somebody's looking to like maybe toss you a second for, you know, an extra flex. Maybe they like Bateman as a flex and they'll throw you a second. I would be comfortable trading him for a second. Other than that, really, your only pieces would be the quarterbacks and then Trey McBride. Nobody's paying, you know, Brian Thomas, people like Brian Thomas, but nobody's going to pay a premium for his production down the stretch because the Jaguars offense is just so rough. Nobody's paying for Jalen Waddle. I know that firsthand. And then these other guys obviously are not starters. So you'd have to go and look for one of the contending teams to possibly need a quarterback. Now, this team literally has the lowest rank at quarterback. This guy has Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers. He's the 12th ranked team at quarterback. So one option you would have would be to go to this team and say, hey, you know, I can offer you Kyler Murray or Jordan Love, and I'll take, maybe you take Russ and Fields, and then you try to get some extra stuff on top. Obviously, you would need a good amount of extra stuff on top. Okay, so for example, this team has a 2025 first that currently belongs to a non-playoff team. That would be a nice piece. Excuse me. That would be a nice piece. So maybe you can get that first, a second. Maybe you can get someone thrown in. Russ, Fields. What kind of scoring we got here? 4-point passing touchdown. Okay. Yeah. So if we just tried to line it up by like trade value, you know, we've got Love right around 2.5 base firsts. This would be about a base first right here. So it's like, okay, 2025, give me your 2025 first, and you don't have a 2026 first. Give me your 2025 first and give me, I don't know, who's expendable on this team that they could send you. Maybe Metcalf. You might be able to get Wilson on it. I mean, honestly, if this team, maybe this team's content just riding with Darnold and Russ, but like if they actually want a quarterback upgrade, maybe you can do something like Garrett Wilson and this first, and you can give him Kyler, or you can give him Jordan Love plus throw in Bateman, something like that. There's also a team here at the top who has, okay, they have Burrow and Mayfield, so they're probably not going to pay up for a third high-end quarterback because they're probably fine riding those guys. Hawk Tua, very creative, very, very creative team name here. Lawrence, Tua, and Stafford. That's a team. Okay, this is a decent idea to go out and buy low on Lawrence with the injury, possibly flip Kyler or Love for Lawrence plus. You could maybe get their first. I would trade Kyler for Lawrence plus a first, probably. Let me see. Kyler at 2.5 in mine. Lawrence at 1. Okay. But we need a little bit more there. You'd need a little more there. So maybe Trevor and the first and JSN, something like that. What do you think of the Dak team? I'll check that out. Yeah, so possibly trading down for a Trevor or a Tua, getting a plus on top. You can try to reach out to them and work the value out. The Dak team, let's go see the Dak team here. Hurts, doesn't it? Is this person trying to compete? So they've got Hurts and Dak and nothing else. Cooper Rush. So they're in big trouble if they actually want to try to make the playoffs. This is your classic team that should tank, but is probably too stubborn to do it. But they've got Brees, they've got Brooks, they have decent running backs. They've got pretty mid wide receivers. But yeah, I mean, if you could get, oh my gosh, oh, sorry, guys. If you could get Dak plus, if you could get Dak in a first for Kyler, I'd feel pretty good about that. I did move Dak down a little bit, and the market might dictate differently. Oh, Backdoor Brown. Oh, that's a good team. Okay, so that's going to be a late first. Yeah, so maybe something like Dak Brooks and the first, and then let him pick between Love and Kyler. Maybe something like that. I think there's a lot of options when it comes to the quarterbacks. If you want to just try to make it known that you're willing to take on an injured quarterback, you're willing to tear down a quarterback and pick up some picks. Obviously, it's nice having these star quarterbacks, but you don't have a lot of pieces here. You know, these firsts are going to be great, but you aren't going to be able to fill out your whole roster just with those picks, unless you're making some pretty creative deals down the road. So maybe downgrading one of the quarterbacks could give you some more ammunition. Just looking here at the first that you have, if we go by record, you've got one that's currently third, you've got one that's in seventh place, and then you've got your own, which will be 101. So it's a good little group. As far as McBride, we could go and do the exact same thing and go look, okay, this dude only has Jake Ferguson at tight end, who is now dealing with Cooper Rush the rest of the season. That's a team that might want to give you a haul for Trey McBride, and you don't have to just trade him to trade him, obviously, but if somebody's willing to pay you above and beyond, give you a first and a second and something else maybe, I think that's worth doing. Because Trey McBride, while he is an elite tight end, he's not offering like some sort of advantage that can't be replicated. You know, he's not doing the Travis Kelce thing. He's just having a good season, and that's fine. But he's not an untouchable player. So outside of that, I don't think there's a whole lot more to do. Nobody wants Tyjae Spears. Nobody wants these other guys. You can just sit on them. I think they're all decent bets to gain value between now and next season. Thomas for sure. I think Waddle will rebound. I think Mitchell will get some hype. It might be over for Dontavian Wicks because the guy legit doesn't have any hands. But overall, pretty good. Max, can you expand on this question? I know it's point scoring. How do you dig into roster construction strategy? I mean, I'm all about strategy. The whole off season will be on strategy, but what do you specifically have in mind when it comes to roster construction? Please ask a follow-up question on that one. And on that note, I don't have much else to go off of with the teams here. Pretty much wrapped those up. So if you guys want to do more questions, we can do more questions. I'll go ahead and browse through the member chat here. There are probably a couple things that I didn't get to. So just take a look here. I will point out, somebody asked Stroud versus Herbert. Who would you take? And honestly, my brain said Stroud because that's what the market has dictated for so long, but I'm really not sure. I'm not really sure why that should be the case still. Like, I still have Herbert down at 21 and I have Stroud at 11, and I'm struggling to actually come up with a good reason. Like, the Chargers are throwing at a normal rate, even like an above average rate recently. Herbert is playing better than Stroud, despite having worse weapons. They both run about the same amount. If anything, give the edge to Herbert on that front. So I just don't know how to do it without messing everything up. But it really does. Like, can somebody give me a good argument for why Herbert should be 2 tiers below CJ Stroud? Because I can't come up with one right now. Okay, well, we'll do Pokemon questions until we get back to the conversation. Have you ripped any Surging Sparks? Just got into collecting. I have not purchased any Surging Sparks. I bought, let's just say this. I got back in. So I was like into Pokemon when I was like 5 years old, and I had cards, and I collected like, I didn't know how to collect cards, but like I bought cards on eBay, and I had a binder, and I didn't do anything correctly. Otherwise, I would have a lot of money right now. But I was into the cards, and then kind of got away from it, and then I got back into it as like just a little hobby where I heard about people collecting and like using it kind of as an investment, and I was interested in getting back into opening some stuff anyway. So I started doing it like 2 years ago, and I just bought like way too much stuff. And it's all in my house now, and it's taking up space, and I don't know how to store it. So I stopped buying a lot more. I haven't really been as into the Scarlet and Violet era. I was much more into the Sword and Shield stuff. I don't. I like the like illustration rares and stuff now, but I'm not really into the. I'm not super into the like weird hat things that they're putting on Pokemon now, and like the EX cards and stuff. Kind of, I don't know. The artwork is kind of cheesy for me, but I got a lot of the 151 set. I really liked that, and now I'm kind of like waiting for that new Eevee set. It's called Prismatic Evolution. I've got some stuff ordered for that, but I kind of sat out a lot of sets. Anyway, let's get back to the football. I think Stroud deserves a bit of patience. Value-wise, moving from Stroud to Herbert is worth it if it's a good deal. Definitely up there in the top 10ish. Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about CJ Stroud. This is not like a situation where I'm moving Stroud down or like I'm worried about Stroud. It's more like it seems like we should pretty much view Herbert, Stroud, Love as pretty much different versions of the same player, where from year to year, one of them or two of them are probably going to run hot on touchdown passes, or they're going to find themselves in negative game scripts, and they're going to outscore the other two. But ultimately, like, what is the difference? They're all elite passing quarterbacks who are capable of playing like the best passers in the game. It's just going to vary year to year on situation and efficiency. And I don't really see why Herbert would be ranked so much further below those guys just because we thought they were going to run the ball a ton when that hasn't been the case. So I don't know. I think it's a little bit of anchoring bias. I need to think about it. I need to find a way to adjust the rankings where I feel good about it. It's weird. I feel fine about putting Herbert next to Stroud. It's that I feel weird raising him above all the other players that Stroud is above. So I think that would make me think I need to move Stroud down, but I don't want to do that. So I don't know. I think I'm still struggling with the quarterback values versus the other skill position players just because of how weird the scoring has been. And honestly, I need to probably dig into like some wins above replacement data and figure out how impactful these guys actually have been, because the conventional wisdom is typically like, okay, you put your star quarterbacks first and then you put your skill players, but that might not actually be the case with how the quarterback scoring has shaken out, and players like Baker and Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold being very serviceable while being very cheap. So it's kind of tricky. Yeah, I think Prismatic Evolution is going to be a pretty fun set and also a good one to invest in. All right. By the way, pro tip, if anybody isn't interested in investing in Pokemon, the Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes are a cheat code. They have a stamped promo card inside, and they're like a limited run, and they sell out like the day that they go up for pre-order. But if you're on it and you can order them, those things like literally just go to the moon like immediately. Like people are already buying pre-ordered Elite Trainer boxes on eBay for triple the price that they cost to order from the website. It's like insane. Okay, Tristan. In a rebuild, do you prioritize draft picks or trading players for value adjacent players that are younger and have more value insulation? I would definitely say that I prioritize draft picks over anything, because draft picks are the ultimate investment in that they always gain value and that they have no downside risk. They can't get hurt. They can't fall into unfavorable circumstances, and there's always demand for them. So the first thing I'm always looking for are rookie picks when I'm trying to pivot off of players. But when rookie picks are unavailable to me or when good value presents itself, I'm always down to trade for value adjacent players that are younger and have more insulation. I'm also into trading for injured players. Like Rashee Rice, when he comes back from his suspension that he's inevitably getting next year, is probably going to come back and be valued like right alongside Drake London and Garrett Wilson and all those guys again. So the fact that you can trade for him in leagues for far less than those players makes him a pretty appealing buy. And then to a lesser extent, guys like Chris Olave, guys like Rashid Shaheed, Jalen Waddle, even with his value depressed, like a lot of times when you have good reason to believe a player is good and then they become injured or they are underperforming, it's typically a good idea to just go out and get those guys. JJ McCarthy is another one where super value insulated. You're not scoring any points right now, so for some managers that makes him expendable. Dak Prescott, I think, is another guy that's good to buy. So yeah, I mean those are all players you can get. As far as younger guys that have more insulation, if you're thinking of like if you're rebuilding, you have Deebo Samuel, you're trying to pivot, Deebo Samuel into a younger player. Unfortunately, outside of the like very, very best veteran players, you're typically getting into young players that have some risk, right? Like Deebo Samuel is probably valued pretty close to like a JSN or a Keon Coleman. And those guys don't necessarily have that value insulation you're looking for. There's some volatility there with their profiles. And so that's where it gets a little bit less appealing when you're taking on these kind of risky profiles in young players that can blow up in your face when they don't pan out, as opposed to rookie picks where you don't really have to worry about that and you have all the flexibility heading into the rookie draft. All right. Are you guys in like a league together? You guys are like negotiating a deal here in the middle of the stream. Any change in your thoughts of JSN? My thoughts of JSN are ever changing. They change minute to minute, just like his talent seems to. I mean, he hasn't moved a lot in the rankings. He's kind of moved like up and down half a tier week by week. Overall, I'm still pretty unimpressed with his body of work. I think he's pretty clearly been a disappointment for what people were looking for when they drafted him, but he's capable of having these huge spike weeks. And so the question is like, can he do that on a sustainable level? I'm willing to pay an early second to find out. I don't think I'm willing to pay a first at this point. And like that might be, I could look back and regret that, but there are just so many other players that I have more belief in that I would rather trade a first for. And so I'm not willing to put him up to that level. So he remains an early second for me. That means I probably won't have him anywhere because there are people higher on him. But when a guy just consistently has like single digit PPR points in most of his games, and then he has, 2 big games, one of which was with DK Metcalf out of the lineup, I don't know. I really, really struggle with this guy to figure out if he's ever going to be a consistent option. And not even like, I don't mean consistent in like, I don't care about week to week consistency that much, but a guy that we can actually believe is going to have these types of games in his bag, or if it's just a fluke. So that's where I'm sitting. I took over an orphan midseason in his league, and the guy before me nuked it. I hate half the players. Yeah, well, typically teams are orphans for a reason. I can definitely say that. I've only taken over a few, and I'm pretty much done taking over orphan teams because I'm selfish and I like startup drafts more than almost any other experience on earth. So I can't afford to be taking over orphans. Every time I take over an orphan, I lose out on a startup draft. So I have no choice but to join leagues the old-fashioned way. What do you think will need to happen for Ladd to get over that hump into being an elite value player? Do you think it's possible in the first place? Yeah, I definitely think it's possible. I think we oftentimes have this like finite idea of what upside is and what it looks like, and we don't think it looks like a 180-pound skinny white wide receiver. I think he has plenty of upside. because the main thing that leads to upside is targets, and this dude earns targets. So I would say he's on trajectory to become an elite value player. It's just that there are only so many of those types of players, and most players are not going to be that. So we've seen everything that we need to see from him so far to say, yeah, he can be an elite player. He just has to actually do it. You know, we can't value him there ahead of time. I have not looked at his reception perception, Nate. I should go and look at the rookie profiles. I know that Marvin Harrison looked really good. His chart was actually a little better than Neighbors, at least just in terms of the green arrows and the overall success rates. That doesn't necessarily matter because Neighbors is just so good at enough things that I don't think it's ever going to be a factor. But I haven't seen any of the other guys, so I should go and look at that. Do you know about Laz? Do you know if it was good or bad? Or, I mean, I'm sure it was good. The guy is a great route runner. He's been doing it not just in the slot. He does it outside too. So the question, like, what do I think needs to happen? I think he just needs to continue to progress as he has progressed so far. Like, we typically do see guys make a jump from year 1 to year 2. So if we look at how he's already commanding targets, I think he has a chance to be an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of player in year 2 and beyond. That's what I would be looking for. Like, you know, not a super low ADOT, but a lower ADOT than like an AJ Brown or like not a Drake London. Drake London's actually been kind of a low ADOT guy this year, but lower than an AJ Brown, lower than a Nico Collins, Brian Thomas type of guy, more of a compiler. So he's always going to be a guy that's probably better in PPR, but he still has these really explosive plays too. This does not surprise me at all that his chart was all green or almost all green. I almost feel like he has a little bit of like Deontay Johnson to his game, but without all of the baggage and the bad stuff. I think he, in terms of like his route running chops and how he can kind of succeed in a lot of different ways. Now, I am not a film guy, so like I like to pretend that I know ball when I definitely don't, but that is how I see him. Did you say 90% slot? Does Ladd McConkey have a 90% slot rate? I find that incredibly hard to believe. I can't get the data suite to load when I'm live, so I'm gonna go to player profiler like some kind of pleb. And then we're gonna get out of here. Player profiler has him at a 63% slot rate, but I'm not sure how they're charting it exactly. Interesting. Anyway, I think he can still play. I think he can play outside. I'm very, very high on him. Obviously, the rankings have him much higher than the consensus does. I've got him at 41. For what it's worth, I do subscribe to Jacob Sanderson's Thinking About Thinking. We don't agree on every player, but I generally really like how he thinks about the game. He actually has Ladd McConkey in a similar range as well, top 45, right around the same range as guys like Devonta Smith and George Pickens and Rome Odunze. And so we're in lockstep there. I'm very high on him. Obviously, I'm high on Herbert as a talent. The Chargers are throwing more. It's just a good situation overall. So I hope he becomes elite too. I have him a ton. I think he's my most rostered rookie wide receiver. Him and Neighbors would be my two most. So definitely holding out a lot of hope for Mr. McConkey. Okay, cool. That's the same number on Player Profiler. So we're good on that. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. I gotta get to bed. Thank you guys for hanging out. Sorry about the technical difficulties at the beginning. If you liked the sort of team specific stuff, we can definitely do more of that. I liked going through those specific situations because a lot of my videos are obviously more general. So it can help to get into the more specific applications. Always down to talk more Pokemon as well at any time. So hope you guys have a good night. Hope you have a good weekend. Hope you win your matchups. And I will see you all in the member chat.